looked at different executive recruitment firms and how they would spend 80 hours performing all these manual tasks just to get one candidate not placed, but just on the phone for an initial interview. And all that was like manual legwork that they had to go and do. When you're not spending 80 hours on that for one job or one candidate, take those 80 hours and now split it up to, okay, if that's now 80 minutes for each, you can work 10 times more jobs or have 10 times more conversations during that time. And again, I'm making up these numbers here. I don't know if it's actually 80 minutes.
Initiating becoming a hiring machine sequence in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, it's Sam Keenley, and welcome back to Becoming a Hiring Machine. This is the show dedicated to fixing recruitment by going beyond saying what needs to change and instead teaches you how to make that change. Today, we've got a phenomenal mic drop episode ahead of us, but before we get into that, I just want to tell you a little bit about the show. Essentially, we have shows within the show here. Some days we have interviews with industry thought leaders and others who are shaking up the space, while other days we cover things like trending topics. Stop by every Tuesday for a Tactical Tuesday episode where we go deep on how to do something that's going to help you drive better results in your day-to-day. Some days we open it up for Q&A, and other days, like today, you get a mic drop episode from Matt where he shares something that he's been thinking about within the recruitment space and wants you to know. And as a reminder, if you love the content that we share here on the show, make sure that you subscribe for more. All right, today's mic drop episode, I'm excited, and I know you're gonna shake your head at me because I feel like I had this giant epiphany last week, and you're just like, yeah, I know, Sam, I've been telling you that over and over and over for the past year, but it finally clicked. And it's the workflow. And I could go dig up the episode. We had an episode on the talent intelligence workflow. It's probably a handful of months ago at this point. But it always happens, you're either on a walk, you're in the shower, you're mowing the lawn, doing something. And I had this epiphany finally, and I was just like, a better ATS or CM by itself, that's not going to make drastically more placements for you. A better outreach tool, that's not going to help you land more clients. A better sourcing tool, like that's not going to reduce your time to hire. What is shocker, the workflow that you've been telling me about over and over and over. So it finally hit that like that's the differentiator that we are helping so many recruiters with, is we're not just giving them these different point solutions, a better ATS, a better outreach tool, it's the workflow. That's what's empowering them to be these 50x recruiters. So before we get into like the back and forth of this, I just want you to let's go like back in time a little bit, just like lay out the problem. Why is a talent intelligence platform, but also more importantly, like just this newer and 50x better workflow, why is this so new and novel? What's this historical problem that hasn't been addressed?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. And I'm super excited for today's episode. It's hilarious that, Sam, that you had that epiphany. You're one of the smartest guys I've ever worked with. And I'm just fascinated how I've tried to articulate the vision over time of Loxo. And I always look at people and they're like nodding their head. I totally get what we're doing. And then you months, years later, these pieces didn't connect. And so I always wonder if it's my challenge, right? And I'll talk a bit about business models today because ultimately I'm very passionate about that. That's what Loxo's done. This is business model stuff. And maybe I'll just hit that right now. So anyone who knows who Steve Blank is, he's a legend for those who create SaaS products and business models. A business model is really important for entrepreneurs. And the reason why is there's four types. Most software and most ATSs, which we'll get to, and we'll get to the problem, is you have most people take something that exists in the world the way it looks today, and they try to make it incrementally better. So you have this ATS, let's go copy what's out there and make it a little bit better, right? And that's what an existing market is, right? And so what the problem is, and what we're going to talk about later, I'll circle back to the business model. People in most industries, including all knowledge work, they do things by rule of thumb, which means they've learned how to do something like a profession. They learn how to do recruitment from others that they've learned it from. And it's a boutique industry. They pass it down to others by rule of thumb, right? Nobody ever takes a deep breath or maybe comes out from outside the industry and takes a look and reevaluates it. It's like, how could we do this the most optimal, most efficient way possible? So the big problem is this. It's a culmination of many things. One, people do things, hey, this is how we've always done things, right? That's just rule of thumb. That's how people approach problems. The other issue, though, is what we're talking about today is software. You go from, I've said this a lot, people that have heard me share this before, is you go from desktop software, all software, it's business process software. The internet popped up, and that's Web 1.0. So they're like, oh, cool, let's put this on the cloud. Let's do SaaS, right? SaaS is a new delivery model, and you update it all the time, so it should get better and better, and it's cheaper. you pay per month generally. That's all the ATSs in the past, right? Then you go to Web 2.0, which is what most of these legacy systems are trying to do, and that just upgrade the interface in a nicer UI. And then we'll talk about Web 3.0 later on in this, which is the solution. But here's the problem. I'll boil this all down to one thing. The entire recruiting industry has basically been doing the same thing forever. It did not matter what database you have. You have to have a database. You have an ATS. Now, whatever your process is, it doesn't really matter. It's been working for you. You basically have a Rolodex of people. You have your network. You have your specialisms. And you recruit however you want to recruit. You reach out. It can be very inefficient. And then what happens is now that we're moving into the more modern, well, as recruiting is starting to move to like Web 3.0, and we're getting past the 90s into the 2000s, now we're starting to get into where we are now, like the 2020s. Now there's been this absolute explosion of technology and tools. And so you have all these best in breed. And so recruiters now are paying for all these bolt-on tools because they help solve a very small piece of the workflow, which is great and fantastic in certain ways. And so everyone's trying to bolt all of these different tools on because it is somewhat relevant, but you're trying to duct tape that and tack it on to your system of record platform. It was never built for that era, right? So the problem is part tools, part stack, just the evolution of technology in general, the web, and then where we're at, right? So this is kind of how we got there, but that's the problem. And everyone did it. They duct tape a mishmash of way too many tools. They're inefficient, and it wasn't built for modern recruitment.
And I think that's the trap that we fall into is I just bought the 7 best of breed tools. I bought the absolute best ATS right now. I bought the absolute best outreach tool. And you think that because you have that best of breed version that you're going to have best results, right? But it's staying in those silos. It's not being pulled out into their workflow. And they're looking like, is this the best of breed workflow? And that's what's not really defined right now. So this seems like it's getting into like, this is the new way, the better way. And you're starting to see more and more organizations that are coming out of this stagnation and starting to hit this like uptick in just their production, their revenue, what their teams are able to accomplish. So like, what is it that you're chalking up to this evolution here?
Yeah. So I'll go back to business model for a second. And I hope everyone kind of understands this and why it's so important. Before Loxo, no one ever has built something where they've combined all this into one. And I can share this and a lot of anecdotally, when we presented some of our platform, we got laughed at. And this whole notion of having sourcing and data and automation and workflows and drip campaigns, like people literally laughed at me when we shared that we built drip sequencing, right? And it was like one of the first introductions in the recruitment platform. But we said recruitment is a lagging industry. It kind of follows sales. So somebody at VP of sales at Salesforce was the first one to look at how sales was always done. And he said, this is crazy. We're randomly reaching out to people. It's not methodical and systematic. And there's a better way. Why don't we scrape a list? We'll put it in. We'll build a predictable revenue model. And we'll follow up automatically, right? And it forever changed sales. And the technology that allowed that job to be done was like drip email tools, like SalesLoft and Outreach.io were the first two. Forever change it, the whole entire thing. It's outbound sales. Recruitment was going to be the same thing, right? We were the first ones to do that. We got laughed at. Now you have entire companies raising lots of money to do that. That's just, again, one piece of it, right? So that's exactly kind of what's happening.
Is it? I don't know. It seems like it's taken so long for this to happen. Is this normal for software to kind of like different industries to be leaders, to be laggards? Like, why do you think that no other software or company has really been able to accomplish this? I mean, you go and look at the rec tech space. It's one of the most concentrated in terms of the amount of options out there. So just curious, like when you came in with your initial perspective on this, you came from an outside point of view, which I always think like that's a blessing in and of itself sometimes when you're able to come in with a fresh set of eyes. But Was it surprising to you that no one had really just like zoomed out a little bit and looked at like, what are we trying to help recruiters accomplish at the end of the day?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've never thought about the world that way personally. Yes, it's very surprising always, right? It's super surprising. Every conversation I have with people, I'm shocked that they have 200 recruiters and they're super successful, and just had one today with a great organization, and they're doing things the old way and they see it and they really are desperate and so thirsty for this new way. You show it to them and they know, right? But the reason, again, going back to the vision and how it's kind of come together, you have to be willing to solve problems and just genuinely want to solve it and be curious as an organization. And that's why you exist and you have a bigger purpose. Where again, going back to some of these early founding Web 1.0 tools and how things have always been done, it's really hard to create something completely radically brand new, right? It's really hard to piece those together. You have to have market timing. It has to be ready. We were very early, in fact, too early on a lot of places. Thank God we took the approach we did. But everything has to line up. The market timing, recruiters have to be ready. You're creating a brand new category. You have to educate the market, which is the hardest part of creating a new category. It's brutal. But what happens is now you know it's happening when every single one of your competitors use your same language on their website. They all sound the same. They start copying all of every move you make. And then suddenly what happens is the whole market goes to their existing incumbent ATS CRM, like, hey, I need this. And then they're like, you're not keeping up. You're falling behind the times. We need this because it solves our problem. They're buying it in best of breed solutions. And now they realize like your legacy ATS is not going to keep up. That's what's happening, right? And they're like, we're not going to build this. It's going to take us a decade and we're going to have to completely rebuild. You're right. It's an entirely different software and workflow.
Yeah. And it's the trap of, like you said earlier, it's like you have to be different, not better, right? And so many of them have just been vying for like, how do we just be a little bit better than the other ones? How do we be a little bit better than the other ones? But to your point earlier, how do you educate a market on something that's completely different from what they're used to? And it's because that different is, you wrote about this before, it's the 50x recruiter. Different is what makes a 50x recruiter. Better isn't what get the 50x recruiter. That's maybe a 2x recruiter if you do something nominally better, so to speak. So do we want to get into the workflow part yet? Is there anything else that we need to set the stage with before like you start talking about just like how this really does make the 50x recruiter?
Well, I would like to just double click on that, like the problem and why I feel it's relevant for us to talk about this. It's one thing for somebody to see something and believe in it and really go for it. I always say Ilya, co-founder, has probably heard me say this a million times. I always say time validates everything. That's why entrepreneurship is so amazing. That's why new innovation, market innovation is so amazing. Most of it doesn't work, but like somebody in a company, in a team, they believe in the mission, they believe in it, and they put it out in the world, and the world's going to judge it, right? And that's the best idea wins. That's the ultimate in innovation. That's in the whole market. All competitors push each other. What happens though, and I'll just kind of share this, everyone's seen the product adoption lifecycle curve. You're not going to get the whole market to start. You're going to get super early evangelists. They'll try everything. Like, I want the new iPhone that comes out, right? You're not going to get the whole market. And this is every single product. Then you get early adopters, right? And then you get the early majority, then the late majority. That's just how it happens. But it has to truly solve in software, in SaaS or B2B software, you have to have PMF. It has to be better in every way. You're not going to replace something you have to fire what they do today. So what you do is you audit. And so this is what SaaS or business software does. You audit what humans do today. How do you do your job? Just tell me about it. What software do you use? How do you do it? Why do you do it? Are you on the full cycle? Do you do full desk? Are you a sourcer? Do you just handle the client BD side, right? Are you small and boutique, or are you pretty sophisticated? But you audit that and assess it. They all do it the same. The rule of thumb. It's like, you got to be kidding me. You all use LinkedIn. You all use job boards, and it's super random. And it doesn't really matter what stack you use. It's ridiculously inefficient. But they're very skeptical because everyone, right? You should be. You get on the phone or on a meeting with somebody, and it's like, I know my business. I've been doing it forever. I'm going to tell you I'm here to buy software. No, you're not. if you already have software, that's not your problem. You're here because you're a professional and you're stuck in the 1990s and early 2000s. And you're here because you realize there might be a better way to do stuff and you're open and interested in exploring it. That's why you're here. For us, that's why you're here, for something new and then as soon as they see it, they're like, wait a second, you're right. I literally duct tape all of this together. I duct tape all of it together today. And it's a nightmare. Everyone, they're all duct taping it together. They all do the same thing. They just do it with different bolt-on tools.
The best of breed bolt-on tools. So yeah, I mean, in a way, like, it's exciting though, because I do think this is really going to help usher in the next wave of just empowering recruiters and what they're going to be able to accomplish. And like you said, it's going to open their eyes when they can see how much it's not better, just different, but that different isn't scary in the sense that it's daunting, harder. It's actually going to make their lives a lot easier when they see. I used to laugh when recruiters say, if you can remove 2 clicks from my workflow, I'll love you forever. Well, what if we said we could remove like 20, 200 clicks from your workflow? Like, love is an understatement then. But that's what a lot of this type of thing does, is because it's solving it, the workflow level, everything that they're doing, by having that all in one space where the information is synced, it's talking to each other, things can feed in through automation and AI and so much more. So you can speak to this a heck of a lot better than I can, but like, let's start to get into that part a little bit more.
Okay, we're gonna give away all of our secret sauce right here.
all the secrets, yes. So, all right, so we kind of said like, okay, we're doing things differently, not better. And one of the very first things that people are going to get into is just like, I'm scared. We've always done things a certain way. And you and I laugh. It's like, if you go back and ask Henry Ford, the market would have said, I want faster horses, not the new Model T. And so for those organizations that are looking at this and they're just like, whoa, you're saying that like, I have to completely change everything that I've done before. We can't do this. Like, before we even get into the specifics of it, like, what's your response to those who are just kind of like, I don't know, that's a lot, Matt?
Yeah, so I'm going to help by sharing a story here. This happened to us yesterday. Every single person listening to this, think of the last week, think of the last month, think of the last quarter. What have you done that's completely different? That was really small. Think of the smallest possible thing. Maybe you ate something different. Maybe you went to a different restaurant. Maybe you watched something different, right? That's outside of your routine. And it was uncomfortable at first. You weren't quite sure what the outcome was, but it was so small you didn't notice. Yesterday as a company, we rolled out a brand new internal solution for our sales team to use. At the grand scheme of things, it's super, super simple. It's one form. We help pre-build and automate and tie together a lot of things so we can scale. But the old way of doing things, our sales team was used to like filling some stuff out in our CRM, creating an e-signature doc for people to sign, and doing it in the workflow, right? We're talking about workflow. Again, all this is workflow, everybody. You have a given way that you learn something, you're comfortable. We presented it to the team. Everyone freaks out. Oh my God, wait, like what, how is this going to impact? How do we do it? It's like, you guys calm down. We showed them why. Go back to the goal. Why are we doing this? I had the whole team. Let's go to the goal. The goal is this. We want to automate and scale. The goal is to get as good as you possibly can be and save 100 hours, per week per person. And here's why. We showed them. The goal is to get better, save time, save money. You always improve. You always optimize. Then we showed them how it was done. Here's the workflow. Here's how we did it before. Here's how we do it now. They're like, oh my God, no wonder we did this. This is amazing. Great idea. Like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden the team members that were filling that out and it took them 10 extra clicks to save 100 hours per person per week, they realized. So I wanted to share that story because it doesn't matter what stack you have. It does not matter. It doesn't matter what ATS you have. I know our team always worry about certain competitors stuff. It doesn't matter. It's a legacy ATS. It's a legacy ATS. They all sound the same. They're not. We could talk about their stack, what they're made of, how they're designed, but it was built and designed to be an ATS. An ATS will not exist because now what recruiters realize is, wait a second, I can pay for this legacy ATS, or I can pay for Loxo, and there'll be more Loxos that'll come here soon, like 5 years. There'll be, I hope, 15 of them. And it will, but all of the legacy ATS will go away. You can pay for that or you can pay for Loxo. What do I get that's different? And it's like, wait a second. Today you have 10 other bolt-ons that you need. You need this email automation. You need contact information. You need BD solutions. You need a sales, a CRM. You need AI, which is now starting to become prevalent, right? They're like, wait, our ATS vendor told us that's in our marketplace, and there's these real cool bolt-ons. Okay, well, those bolt-ons are a 4-person startup. They're not going to even be in business, and they won't execute, right? And even if you try to duct tape it and try to get them to innovate and keep up, it's not in one unified workflow. Now go bolt on this other tool. Oh wait, that doesn't integrate. I need Zapier. I need some consultants. So going back to the workflow of the way that people do things today, the ATS is the problem. That's your core system of record. That's where you do your everything. You should not have to go outside of it. You should not have to go outside of it. And so, the bolt-ons are the problem, and it should be all in one natively built solution.
Yeah, and as you were saying that, I'm literally writing down in my notebook a couple of things. I'm going to come back to the first thing, how you teed up the goal earlier, but yes, you go to the marketplace, you can do it, but is it improving your workflow at the end of the day, or are you just swapping out something that you used to do manually? Because again, it's not natively built into what you're doing. You still have to go open a new tab, go open a new, I don't know if you literally have to write it in your journal or something else. It's not being incorporated into your workflow in the same way. So it's not solving the root problem, so to speak. You're just going after better at that point. But with the change part, what I really liked, and as I was sitting in this meeting with you yesterday and doing, I was just like, that is brilliant how you came in and helped everyone understand this, was you really took it through 3 different things. One, we started the meeting off with just like, what is the goal? Why are we here? What is this solving for? Before we start getting into details, before we start having people freak out, hey, there's this new thing. We're all here because we want to make your jobs easier. We're going to make this process way more effective for you. Okay, cool. Raise your hand if you don't agree with this. You're not going to find a single person that raises their hand with that. Next, you show, okay, how are you doing this currently? How does this look moving forward? And everyone's just like, as you said, their eyes just open wide, like, this is amazing. This is so much better than what you do. And then the team embraces it because they know, what's that goal we're going after? You've just shown me that this is better and easier. They're going to embrace that little bit of discomfort of the learning curve, knowing that long term, as you said, this is going to save hours of just admin work that no one likes doing anyway. So why would you want to fight that change?
Yeah, exactly. You just nailed it. And we talk about this daily, weekly, and we're big fans of gap selling. Give a shout out to Keenan out there. It's all business process software. You run a workflow, you do it a certain way. Can you optimize it and make it better? You're going to hit you're going to eventually hit full level of efficiency, right? And then you have, especially that's where Web 3.0 starts to come in. Most people don't really care. You have the existing ATS CRM, you have LinkedIn, you have job boards. But if you want to get radically better and create leverage, the next incremental step, it's not an incremental step. It's actually an order of magnitude leap forward is with the data and AI. And that's where Web 3.0 comes in. Most people aren't even ready for that. They're still just getting ready for the kind of Web 2.0 workflow pieces. But where you become this 50x, which productivity boost is, and we'll talk about specifically about recruitment now. Recruitment, you have a job, essentially what business process software is and what we talked about, the goal, you always start with the goal. The goal, the job to be done and job to be done framework is you have a open job rec or vacancy. You have a hiring company. Okay, how do you solve this problem? You have a pool of potential candidates, right? And however you get through that pool of potential candidates as quickly and efficiently as possible, and you literally rank them in order of best fit, whether you use your brain, you use methodologies, you use some type of AI or bots, combination of all the above. That's what you're doing, right? And that's what you should be doing for your client. And if you're not, instead what you're doing is you're getting your little fishing line and ripping it out in the water, and you hope you get some random good fish, and whatever it looks like, you flip it over the oh, I hope my client hires this. Oh, thank God they hired it and get my fee. That's sure, people get away with that. That's not being a professional. That's not fair. They're coming and hiring professional recruiting orgs to do it systematically and find the very best mutual hire, right? So you can do it systematically. The talent pool's fixed, right? It's not an infinite talent pool. Once you start to throw in your criteria and your titles and experience and geolocation, you have a limited talent pool. It's not that hard to add some AI, get all the people in your database, add some AI to it. The more data you have and metadata on them, and the algorithms are better. Plus, you use your own brain, use your own filtering and Boolean. The upfront and middle stack is where you gain the most efficiencies. Then you use automation to automate the outbound. Again, you can use AI and your brain and some new tactics and methodologies to create better messaging. And again, what's the goal here? You have different goals for each step and piece of the workflow. Every single step, A to Z, methodically break it down. Am I being the most efficient here? Can I get any more optimal? What is the goal for this specific piece to the puzzle? Lay it all out, A to Z, and you look at it, you're like, wait a second, why would I can do this in one software. I can do this in one system. I can do it with one team. Why would I ever in a million years pay for 5 different companies that were never designed to think that way? That is the difference between Web 2.0 and best of breed and Web 3.0. Web 3.0, the companies that will win the entire category and dominate, it's all in one. It's not even close. No brainer.
Mm-hmm. And those efficiencies are so powerful because, again, it doesn't matter what sourcing tool you're using, any of that. It's how it all strings together. And you wrote an article, it was in 2022, a couple of years ago, the 50X Recruiter that you were talking about. And one of the lines in there that I laugh at now because it's how true it is and what we're solving for and speaking to today is you said you looked at different executive recruitment firms and how they would spend 80 hours performing all these manual tasks just to get one candidate not placed, but just on the phone for an initial interview. And all that was like manual legwork that they had to go and do. And how many other recruiters were just spending so much time jumping between different general purpose tools like Gmail, like Microsoft Word, or anything else that they were using. And all of this is, as you say, when you have it in one spot, you can automate so much of that. And so that 80 hours becomes, I don't know, 80 minutes because it sounds good for me to say. I don't know what it actually is. It's probably a heck of a lot less than that when you do have those automations built in. And that's what that workflow is helping them do. And so not only does that make them faster, but when you're not spending 80 hours on that for one job or one candidate, take those 80 hours and now split it up to, okay, if that's now 80 minutes for each, you can work 10 times more jobs or have 10 times more conversations during that time. And again, I'm making up these numbers here. I don't know if it's actually 80 minutes. It's Matt, you're probably shaking your head like, Sam, it's like 8 seconds. It's not 80 minutes. But to use that for the point of context, like that's what this is helping you do. And that's where it's like, it doesn't matter what tool you're using. It's the workflow at the end of the day. And especially as you say in that middle part, which is where you're going to get that just disproportionate outcome that's going to just make you so much better and more impactful.
Yeah, exactly. And what I've learned a lot over the years too, keep going back to rule of thumb, but like boutique, independent headhunters, RPO, in-house corporate that do, executive search, hard to fill, or like highly confidential roles, succession planning, they all do relatively the same, right? All rule of thumb. And when I look at it though, and you go back to the time, I also am a first principle learner. I did share that kind of article, how I'd spent so much time methodically looking at this. I tried recruiting myself. I sat next to, I interviewed, I explored, I audited. Still to this day, I learn every day, I audit how people do it. Everyone, and you look in your own organizations, ask your team, you think they all do the same? You think they're using your ATS to search and find people? They're not. You have to look at how they do it. People poke page by page. And they get interrupted. They go to the water cooler. They get, again, this isn't about who's like can sit in a dark dungeon and just crank away and be the most like robot. That's not what we're talking about. Why do you exist? And do you want to be profitable? Do you want to have enough time to spend more time slaving away? Or do you want to hit your goals and go hang out with your friends and family? There's different benefits, but it's about being the best version of yourself, the best version of your organization. And software technology, it's going to completely change recruitment. And I promise you, it's not going to be the old way of doing stuff. It's impossible. You have to adopt. You don't have to do anything, but the ones who do and adopt, it's easier, it's better in every way. But the 10x improvements, you have to adopt a new approach. I don't know should I share that story that I was sharing earlier? What do you think?
Yeah, we can pull it out. Let's do it. I think people will relate to it more than we realize.
Okay, so I'll remove the time frame. So This year at some point in time, I had a really good conversation, and this is a group that I would put in the late adopter stage, and we have a lot of their biggest. The reason why we're talking now, we've met every year. Most of their competitors have moved to Loxo, and they're like, okay, this is a problem. We need to dig into it again. So they have all their leadership, executive team, committee all join. The main leaders, we have multiple meetings. We have one meeting about. We all agree. Sam, to your point earlier, what's the goal? We want to be the best we can. We are open-minded. We are so open, whatever it takes. We agree. We're willing to do whatever it takes. The goal is we don't want to fall behind. We want to have a competitive edge. If it net costs the same, we're willing to go through some of the changes to get it done, especially if it's pretty simple. Okay, great. So there's nothing stopping you from moving forward in the future. Nothing at all. Nothing. Nope. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to challenge you guys. I'm willing to bet a lot of money. My one concern is this: change management. You all have been doing stuff for 20 years or 18 years, 15 years. That's the hardest part. You'll see it. It's so easy. That's the hardest part. Do you have the leadership, the change management, the willpower? Do you have all that, the culture to be open-minded to go through all that? Yes, we'll lead it. We'll make it happen. Okay. The next meeting you have with the whole group, and you have 90%, 80%, I'd say it's always close, 80% of the whole group and committees. Everyone sees it. They're shaking their head. They're salivating. They're all on board. And you'll have the couple skeptics, right? There's always some, which is good. It's important to balance. For this particular story, though, the whole group they're all closer to retirement than they are to starting their career, which is they've done it. They're veterans. They know what they're doing. They don't want to change, though, right? And they're closer. They don't want to fall too far behind, but all of their software and vendors are falling behind, and they're paying for these bolt-ons. But the reason why I preface it with that, and I share this at this level, which is there's nothing wrong, again, being close to retirement. That's a lot of the industry. They're being forced. Like, the whole industry is being forced. It's all moving whether people want to or not. It's here. They're late adopters. They're the last ones. But this is what the comment was. And this gentleman, who is the biggest skeptic, said, oh my God, we're going to have a lot to talk about. This is unbelievable. However, we totally see it. We totally get it. 100%. Like you said, Sam, show them how the old way, the new way. He saw it. They get it. But the comment he made was, oh my God, we're going to have to sit down and have a conversation. This is like an entire new way of doing things, right? And that's it. And that's what it comes down to. The old way or a new way. And the whole entire market is moving to the new way. Some people are open, some people try it. And then the last thing I'll say is it gets back to the story I shared with our own team internally. I'm very innovative. I'm willing to jump ahead. I'm willing to try anything. I'm a super early adopter. And our team is, and our culture, and I think, but we've grown quite a bit. And I'm just seeing it in our own company. The bigger you get, the more painful it is, the more difficult it is, the more team members, the more meetings you have to have. It's hard. And so all we did was we rolled out that new solution. And was it perfect? Of course not. It never is. But right away, I had a chance to use it. I went in, I played with it. I messed up a couple things. And it was unbelievable. Of course, I didn't know everything, but like I did it one time. It was a new workflow. I tried it, and now I'll never go back, right? And it was like, you just have to try. You just have to be willing to jump. It's not so scary, right? It's a new thing, but that's the way the world is going. And so you have to be open-minded to try it. Just like you would tell your kids, you have to evolve. You have to learn. You have to try, or you're going to be somebody that falls behind. You don't want to fall behind.
I thought you were about to say a story about having your kids try new food, but it was actually much more aspirational than that. No, but one thing I loved about that example, and I know you're not going to say this about yourself, but you were the first person to go through it also, and then not just go through it, but you shared publicly in our internal communication tool, like, hey, I just did this. I also messed up on a bunch of these things, but here's what I learned. Here's what we need to improve. And you laid it out there, one, led by example with it and showing like, I'm going to walk the walk. I can't just talk the talk and tell everyone to use it. Like, I'm going to be the first person to go through this door, make sure it works and everything else. And I'm also going to show people it's okay. You're going to mess up. There is a learning curve to it as we go through it. It's completely normal. It's completely acceptable. Like, it's even happening to me. So I think, and this goes back to our episode 100, Tim Sackett had said it best, like as a leader, you have to lead and own, if you're making these shifts for your company, you are responsible for the adoption and the usage of the team. You can't just give something to the team and then say you have to use it. Like, you have to really show and lead with that part as well.
1,000%. And I'm so grateful that Tim and people see that and share that. And the way that Tim has conviction, he knows, and he's one of the most successful, well-respected people in the whole industry. And he's seen it firsthand for decades. But leadership is not a title, right? And everyone thinks this is, okay, I have this title. There's different types of leadership. And you want to be a self-servant leader and invest in everyone else. But a big part of leadership is making hard decisions. And in business world, you have a responsibility and accountability to the people and their families and their livelihood to make sure that they're in their very best future state. That's why you're a leader. They're desperate for you to make sure that you lead them that way. That's an important thing for technology and people that are still sitting on, I know I'm clearly in a biased spot with this, but like you just ask people, you don't have to tell them. You're on a software that was built in the 1990s. It doesn't do anything. You're literally band-aiding things together because you're afraid and you're lacking the courage that your organization needs you to do. And, I'm not here to scare people away or say that their leadership is not easy or they're horrible humans. It's human nature. It happens everywhere. But modern recruitment, it's moving this direction. People need to be bold. They need to have the courage, and it's not as scary as they think. You have partners there to walk you through every step of the way, but you have to lead.
And one of the things is I think about like this new workflow. I'm looking at our website because we even have a section on the talent intelligence workflow on our page, and it's 5 steps. Create a job, source candidates, build a short list, engage candidates, manage candidates. Anyone listening to this is just like, that's not new. That's our workflow. Like that's nothing's changed. And that's where I'm realizing and what I wanted to do with this episode, and then what we're really going to help continue to push out with our messaging and empower recruiters to do, is the workflow. This 50x recruiter workflow is what's nested in between all of those individual steps. So I know we're not screen sharing with this and showing like the aha moments when people's eyes just absolutely light up when you show them, but explain some of these improvements and differences in the workflow between automations, AI, and everything else, so people can understand like just how different this is from what they're currently doing.
Yeah, God, people either fall asleep or they're like, oh my God. God, if you can't tell, I'm just hyper systematic and a tech nerd, but like I love operations too. And I love optimization, and I really love looking at a process A to Z. And I really genuinely love to look at, I drive our operations, our whole team probably nuts, but like every little tiny micro step, what most people do when they build a process, they're done. They're like, oh, we're good. We're good for the next 20 years. It's like, no, you're never, ever done. You're always tweaking and optimizing. And with what you just said, what are some of the big ones? Yes, there's big ones, big steps. The huge one is, well, little things are big things and they compound. That's why it goes back to inside one unified. You could use a sourcing platform, and there's some really good AI sourcing. They're mostly just sourcing tools. They do Boolean, but a lot of people have access to the same data. Data is a commodity. Data without the right workflow does nothing. You also need to have the right UX and the right product design. So, hey, what's the goal? I have a job. I need to fill people. What's the shortest amount of steps and the fastest way you can possibly do that? Well, I want to enter the title in the hiring company. Whoa. I want to enter a whole page of 500 forms. And why? You can do that later, or you can automate it. Example 1. Example 2 is searching in your own database. That sounds really simple. It's not fancy, advanced. Very few people know this. Even our sales team don't know this. All ATSs, you cannot search your own database. Even one of the biggest competitors, you can't search your own database. It wasn't built that way. So think about this. You're a recruiting organization. You specialize in a specific sector or specialism. You have a job opening. I want to, as quickly, as rapidly as possible, I want to figure out who the best possible fits are in my entire database, my own data, my own network. You should already have them in there. But if you can't search and can't find that, you have to leave your database and you have to go to LinkedIn or job boards and go page by page, because they lock you, they limit you to 1,000 results. Job boards are also only full of people that nobody's recruiting in general, and they're active, right? And so step by step, create the search, find all possible results, automatically curate them with as much relevancy as you can, and then quickly get them into your system instead of exporting, bolting on different solutions, right? That's a big part of it.
And on that one, even one, they can't search within their own database. And two, for the few people that do think about like, hey, I've got these people in our database, that data is not up to date because it's gone in there and it's just sat stale. Nothing's updated, nothing's changed. And since they enter them, unless they've been manually keeping up with this candidate over time. And like, that's another part of the workflow that we've helped solve for, is like, we have access to this data that we're keeping fresh regularly. Why wouldn't we just keep that up to date for them so they don't even have to think about it?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And that's another thing that you and now I have these epiphanies on the marketing side sometimes, thinking about stuff. And it's like, when you're so far ahead and you're pushing so many different things, sometimes you forget like the most important jobs to be done, or problems or pains, are search. I need to find stuff in my database, or I have 70% of most people's database goes out of date every year. So what did Sam just talk about? Well, we already have our own data, so we can automatically keep data up to date and fresh. Like, that's a game changer. You don't have to hire 5 extra employees. When you do a search in your database and you're looking for somebody with a certain title in a certain geography, now suddenly they all pop up and it's all accurate. Instead of most legacy databases, which you can't find anyway, you don't have those people in your system because they've changed jobs and companies and moved. It sounds minor, but an extra 10 placements a year for companies is transformational. 3 years, that's millions of dollars. This isn't incremental.
No, it's monumental. And me as a marketer, I always love this one. I'm not a spammer. I promise I can say this. But one of the things that our team geniusly built in was, okay, you have these phenomenal candidates you've identified, and then you get ready to, shockingly, reach out to them. You want to start outbound. They work through the settings to be like, okay, well, as part of this job, we know what needs to happen in order for us to do that. We have to find that information, the contact information for that individual. We need to have a outreach email campaign, something set up. Well, instead of the traditional way of being, okay, let's go over to insert any contact information finding platform here. You have to bounce out to another window, use your credits, get that out, copy and paste it back over in your ATS CRM, drop that into the outreach sequence that you also have in yet another platform. Our team, we have a little 3-dot drop down. You go down to it and you just say auto fetch contact information. One thing. For any individual that you drop into that, now their contact information you're automatically going to have. Like, as we were saying, talk about removing 1 to 2 clicks, talk about removing 20 minutes per person right there, and just having that be an intuitive, it's happening in the platform for you. You don't even have to think about it. Like, those are the types of things within the workflow that me coming from outside the industry, I'm just like, holy shit, this is incredible. Like, it's nothing groundbreaking, but it's groundbreaking.
It is groundbreaking. And what you just said is, it's so funny too, is we were talking about this earlier, is you're assuming that people had these things before and other bolt-ons. They didn't. Finding personal contact info is so hard. It's so valuable. People are not aware they can do it. Not only can you automate it, but now you have access to people's contact info. And again, you're going to make a lot more placements. But the other thing is, you mentioned kind of bolt-on tools and solutions. Along the way of the old way and replacing the old way, people can fire all the different tools they use. Super expensive tools that cost tens of thousands of dollars per recruiter, you no longer need, because now you have a list of people, whoever you want, you can contact them. It's like, it's not just a better workflow. It's not just faster. It's the whole thing, right? How do you literally operate today? How much money do you spend to add them all up? You get rid of all of that. And it's like starting a clean slate, way faster, way better, way more efficient, reducing costs. It's a new way, but look at it.
Everyone goes after, and you said this so well before, everyone goes after the best in breed tech stack. They build out this crazy thing and it comes out really expensive, right? It's because they're going for, I want to be sophisticated with my recruitment. And what this is it's taking all that sophistication from God knows how many places, consolidating it down into one platform, which is actually super simple. So you have simple and sophisticated, all with an incredibly easy to use UX. So it's like, what's not to love here when you have all of like better, faster, and cheaper? Usually you can't pick all three, but sometimes you can.
Yeah, that was the trade-off in the past. You had to pick one in the triangle, right? Or you could pick two. You could be, quality, time, or cost, right? But yeah, the trifecta. You actually can improve quality with Web 3.0. You should, if you do it right, you can improve, save money, make more money, save time, improve quality. Yeah, you should be able to do that.
And I think that's the difference, no pun intended, of what you can accomplish when you're doing something differently, not just better. When it's better, you usually can only pick two of the three, right? Because you have to have trade-offs with one of the other options that you're vying for. But you're like, if we do this differently, why not take on all three? It's just a matter of how we want to go about it. So I swear I didn't. Go ahead.
Oh, I have a question for you. I'm gonna throw us a loop for a second. I've seen this forever. I believe in it. We built it. Our customers believe in it. They supported us. We've grown. It's so obvious. And every single meeting, it's so obvious to people to connect the dots. Just even talking out loud, you and I, it's just like, this is such a no-brainer. And you came from industry, like, okay, well, everyone already has bolt-on, like, best-in-breed solutions to do this. They already have contact info finders. They have already automation. They already have an elegant. No, they don't. They have none of that. And now it's all in one. It's a no-brainer. But from the question for you would be, why are people not doing this?
I think they fall into a couple traps. One's the good enough trap, where it's like, my tech stack works good enough. Like I've kind of got things figured out. I'm comfortable with it. And then that leads into the other one that you and I talked about earlier, is change management. It's fear of something new. It's fear of something different. And I think we convince ourselves that we don't want to do these things by sticking our head in the sand saying, well, if I don't go and look and see how much better this is, like if I don't have my eyes open to it, it's just words on paper. Oh, it's better. Okay, everything's better. But once you see it, that's where it's like, okay, I can't hide from this. Change is coming. Like the whole industry is moving with it. So I think those are part of it. And then there's probably the innate assumption that, okay, if this thing is really promising to do all that it can, they're just assuming it's way more expensive, that they can't afford it, or that it's going to be way too sophisticated, too complicated for them to take on. And so it's lack of awareness, lack of really, like, I don't want to say doing the due diligence to look into it, but just making assumptions about it without really knowing. But that's because they're thinking of it in terms of they're going to be better than what I know versus fundamentally different. And that's what I think those assumptions get us sometimes caught up in. But what do you think? I mean, you hear a lot of these come up on calls all the other time. So am I in the right realm here, or are there others that you're coming up against?
No, I wanted to know your opinion, because you're getting to a point where you're connecting all the dots, you're seeing it, you might articulate it better than I do in certain ways, and all these conversations, all pockets, right? The whole industry is moving this collectively. For me, I personally, I think humans are all unique, and I think every organization is unique. Maybe I do it the wrong way, but I like to go pretty deep and pretty consultative. And I think that's how businesses, and especially agencies and search firms, they are unique, and they need that, right? This is a business process change and it's consultative, but I'm starting to realize over time, the product adoption lifecycle curve, there's a reason it exists, and it literally happens. And that's where we're at. Anyone who wants to look that up, it's true. Everyone you talk to, that I talk to, or that our team talks to, or their organization, you could put them where do they fall? Are they evangelists? We're way past that. Are they early adopters? Way past that. But even when you talk to new ones in new markets, they come to you, the questions they ask, the tech stack they use, how advanced they are, how willing to change they are, and that's okay. There's a reason there's late adopters and more conservative. They need to wait. They're very conservative. They're afraid of doing stuff in life. That's okay. Not everyone has to be the first out of the gate, right? Sometimes those ones don't make it back. Which is fine, but where we're at as the industry and this is emerging is it's late adopters, mass majority. And so I was just asking you to see, if you feel there's any other big things, big rocks that we're not seeing, or themes, but like it's just change management and just seeing it. But you said it. Once you see it, it just depends. Where are you on that spectrum? Are you open-minded to trying stuff, or would you rather wait until you kind of your current system goes away and they're no longer updating it, and you just kind of have to, and that's okay too.
Yeah. And it's awareness of the problem. And that's exactly what we're working on here is they don't even think if there's a better way. And that's what we have to help people understand is like your current way might work for now, but like there's something better. There's something different out there, but people don't like, if they've never heard of Loxo, they're not going out and looking like, what's a talent intelligence platform? What's a better workflow? Like that's not even in their mind to think about because they only know what they know. And so I think one other thing that I've noticed, especially as we had our event in London about a month ago, and from talking to the recruiters there and just seeing how that market operates, it's very much of, well, do my peers use you all yet? What do they think? And there is a lot of that effect of in certain certain segments, certain regions, I don't want to say no one, there is a hesitancy for some of the people to not be an early adopter because they don't want to be the one to try something that is so different. They want to go and see like, is this accredited person? Is this other individual that I highly respect? Are they using it? And there's this kind of wait and see where all of a sudden I think it's like you'll have one person go over, they'll be like, oh, this is pretty cool. Then 10 more people come over and they'll be like, hey, this is great. Everyone come over. And then you just see this rush come in, but you have to get those couple people in the beginning. And I think that's where we're right at that tipping point with it in some of those markets where they just need that validation from the company that's not selling the answer to them.
Yeah. And the recruiting space is, especially in the UK, in certain markets, it's more driven by, word of mouth and community, and you're 100% right. I think it's more so than probably almost any B2B market. It's good and bad. It's good, but you have to deliver. They're a tough group, but yeah, they all do. Exactly. What's your stack? Then they all do it. It's wild, but yeah, that's why this market, I always say a lot, like in, 5 years from now, the legacy ATS won't exist. We see it. It's already happening in the US. It's much further, but other markets will follow.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know how we're already closing in on an hour of this. Any other like points within the workflow, things that we want people to think about just as they're like, this is, I call it a zoom out conversation, really. Like, don't get so caught up in your specific tech, but just like larger questions that people should be asking themselves, leaders should be asking of their organizations, just about kind of what we've touched on today.
Yeah, no, this is so much fun. I hope it was helpful for people to think more than anything. But yeah, my own curiosity and like a challenge to people is like, what do you have to lose? Like, what do you have to lose? And again, you don't even have to, if there were other options that did the similar thing with Loxo, you could do the same thing, but like, bias, like you don't have anything to lose. Go to Loxo's website. There's a free trial, and like, you're not going to hurt anything. You can't break it. You have nothing to lose. Like, just try it and play with it and compare it. And even if, because the last thing you could do is just do nothing and stick your head in the sand, but the market is moving this way. So the ones listening, you're interested in professional development. You want to get better. But yeah, that's why we exist. We're here to help our industry and our market move forward and push the market forward. And so, yeah, we hope if anything, you start to really think about this.
Yeah. And even if you don't move forward with this long term, like go play around with, just look in the settings, look like in the setup of the platform itself. Like, as I was saying, those little drop downs earlier, like auto fetch contact information. Go see what all those little things are that you're realizing you're doing manually right now without even thinking about it. And this is going to help bring it to light to you to be like, oh, I could do all of those, and that's what it can handle for me. So like, you don't even have to add your credit card to get the trial or anything else. Like, just go give it a shot and see what's there. No pressure at all. So yeah, I hope we get questions and people writing in, email, LinkedIn, wherever to us. Just let us know what you think after it.
Yeah, just grab a glass of wine, grab a beer, and log in, kick the tires.
Have fun with it. Yeah. Love it. All right. Well, Matt, this was a fun one. As I said, I don't know how we almost just cranked out an hour of this. I guess good conversation comes easy when you get two nerds talking about something that they're enjoyed with. So thank you as always for hopping on. I know it's been a couple of minutes since you and I have had a mic drop episode between us, but I know they're always like some of the most fun conversations that I have, and hopefully others have enjoyed it as well. So thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Awesome.
Good. All right, everyone. Well, Becoming a Hiring Machine is a production of Loxo. If you love this episode, but you're not sure where to go next, we've got a link to a similar one in the show notes. You can find those in the description of your favorite podcast streaming platform, as well as on our website, loxo.co/podcast. Full video episodes are available, and if you ever have questions, send them to us, podcast@loxo.co. So, all right, everyone, that's a show. That was yet another phenomenal mic drop episode with Matt. Until next time, bye, y'all.